On behalf of Futury and all our mission initiators, I would like to welcome you out of our live stream studio in the Tech Quartier here in Frankfurt to our 5th mission, Mobility Be Urban. It's a pleasure to see so many of our corporate partners who are involved in this project online and joining us for the next 3 hours, which will be very exciting, where you can also see first time the teams pitching their ideas. My name is Vanessa Kempf, and as the overall program director of the mission, I will guide you through the day today, the agenda. All right, so what's on the agenda today? I'm going to give you a short introduction on the mission and a little bit of a welcome of our teams. This will be followed by our dialogue between Tobias Raffel and Holger Hoff from the PIC and Tobias from the Werte-Stiftung, who will talk about sustainability in business and science. Afterwards, we follow on with a panel with our corporate partners, which is about the future of mobility and any challenges that come with it. So we'll have Guiseppe with us from Zayer, we have Eric with us from Bain and Company, and also Jan-Erik Putze from Droniq. After that session, after the panel and a little bit of an exchange with the corporate partners, we are going to kick off with our teams finally. So we have 2 teams starting before our break. Then we have a short coffee break at 10:30. Followed then by another 3 teams pitching their ideas. And after those, I'm quite happy and proud that we have Vivian with us from Reciter. Vivian is one of our alumni from the first mission who founded her own company together with 2 other co-founders. And she will talk about her experiences in the last 1.5 years on how it is being a founder and what happened after the mission. So hopefully this will round up the day quite nicely. We'll do a short outro and then next steps, what's going to happen in the next 2.5, 3 months, so that we end our live stream by 12 o'clock. A few words on the mission. So what's the mission and what's the goal of the mission? The goal of the mission is moving towards a sustainable future. And how do we do this? We're doing this by connecting and matching talents on the one side, and on the other hand side, corporate partners to innovate together on sustainable ideas. You can see that we're having 12 missions in front of us, or not even more in front of us, but we agreed on 12 mission and topics. And we already covered 4 of them. So we started in September 2019 with our waste mission, followed by banking. Then we went into the sports mission, looking into work until the last weeks. And now finally, our mobility mission, which is kicking off today. There's a few more to come, but now it's number 5. And I'm very happy and proud that we have such amazing corporate partners with us, which you see at the bottom line. Our premium partner being Zayer, we have Wingcopter, To Go, die Deutsche Flugsicherung, Mainova, Ecolog, Harley-Davidson, Droniq, Visag, RMV or RMV, and the Landeshauptstadt München with us. So welcome again also from Futury side and the initiators to our corporate partners joining today. So the mission, you know now, and of course part of the mission are always our amazing 5 teams and the amazing 5 ideas. And that's how we start the day. We have 5 teams and ideas that people are going to pitch. Number 1 being intermodal vehicle drone delivery, which is about all last mile delivery and what ideas can come with this. Second, we have our charging community grid team, which looks into how supply and demand can be matched better in terms of electricity and charging. Thirdly, we have our intermodal fleet management team, who's looking into how you can, get a better fleet management mix and optimize maybe your fleet. Then we have our intermodal mobility team, which looks into kind of how can I use sort of a tool or optimize my travel and better plan my travel while traveling multimodal. And lastly, we have our nano transport vehicle team, which looks into options on how you can take on maybe some luggage with a scooter. So you can be very excited about the ideas and the first pitches of our 5 teams. And so where did we come from? What's the plan? Where are we now and what's ahead? So we started our onboarding week 2 weeks ago, so 15th of February, here in the Tech Quartier in Frankfurt. The teams came in, they joined, we had the first team building sessions, onboarding and everything. So now, not even 2 weeks later, so we're 1.5 weeks later, we're having the kickoff day now. And so you can see the results of their work in the last 1.5 weeks. Once this is done, we go into feedback and look on what the feedback of the corporates will be, followed then by a few weeks and months about user research and looking more into the idea, prototyping. So we have our first interim pitch then at end of March, which will be also at the Tech Quartier here. Then the weeks after the interim pitch, there will be more about prototyping, business case, follow-on planning, and so on, so that we kind of round off our program by 11th of May. So mid of May, we're finishing off. So you see, there's exciting 3 months ahead of us, and so I'm very happy to start off with this excitement today. As pictures show more than words, I just wanted to leave a few impressions of our last 2 weeks. So we started off, as mentioned, with the onboarding week. So you can see some of the first kind of ideation sessions, and very active people are looking into their ideas. You even see a scooter over here looking already on what can be done. We have Z with us from Bain and Company remote, and people just did lots of work in the design thinking workshop. Then also, one of the excitement always is our fireside chat, where we have our alumni coming in and talking about their experience in the mission, during the mission, after the mission, what comes next. Also, the teams, they have table soccer game to then kind of gamble and game the room and the seats they are placed in. So you can see they're already allocated quite nicely in the Tech Quartier, some of them spreading out here, and you see that the first kind of work already happened in their rooms. So all in all, I would say this was quite an exciting 1.5, 2 weeks. And so I'm pretty sure I've seen some good results. I have seen some good energy that this will be followed on also in the next weeks and months. All right, that's it from my side. I just wanted to keep it brief because teams are excited. But before we're starting off with the teams, I would now like to, in a second, hand over to 2 people that will have a dialogue on sustainability in business and science. So I'm quite happy to have Dr. Holger Hoff with us from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research. He's a senior scientist, we could engage him to come over and have a dialogue with us and with Dr. Tobias Raffel from the Werte-Stiftung. He's the managing director, and have like a nice combination or balance between science and business. So I'm very happy to have both of you here having a dialogue about sustainability in business and science. So over to both of you.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, and welcome on behalf of the Werte-Stiftung as well. It's great to see mission number 5 starting today. We've been supporting the missions right from the start, and it's great that the teams will pitch their ideas today on mobility. We are quite curious and excited to see that. In order to set the scene for this and to frame also the discussion on sustainability, we will discuss some aspects that we find important, and it's great to have Holger Hoff from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research here with us. Holger and I and some others have been working on sustainability for quite some time, always with the goal to also help the innovating teams in their work. So you, the teams, will meet us at various points during the program, and we will try to help you to come up with ideas that are not only good ideas, commercially working ideas, but also sustainable ideas. When Holger and I prepared for this little dialogue this morning, we decided to come up with 5 theses on sustainability. And you should see them now in front of you. We believe that we need to, first of all, align with science. In the discussion of sustainability, there's a lot of knowledge that science has provided. We need to listen to science. Second, we need to move from attitude to action. it's always good to talk about sustainability, but what we really need now is implementation, action. We need to get going. Then our thesis number 3, we need to collaborate across actors and sectors. We all have to do our part, if it's business, politics, science, and also especially across sectors, because if we work together, then we have the largest potential to really get the transformation towards a more sustainable future going. Our thesis number 4 is we have to consider the power of tipping points, because the developments are not linear always, but rather exponential and tipping. So we want to discuss that this morning as well. And last but not least, we want to argue that we need to promote a positive narrative. The discussion of sustainability is much more than thinking about becoming vegetarian or vegan or feeling bad about the flight to our business or a holiday destination. So if we think about sustainability as a way of having new opportunities for business, but for society and for our planet, then I think that's the right way to look at it. Let's start with the first thesis, and I hand over to Holger. Holger, why shall we listen to science, and what does science actually have to tell us?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Yes, it's nice that we are at least united on the screen, being able to spend time in the same room, but this almost makes up for it. Indeed, it's a big pleasure to reach out to different societal groups from science, which to my mind is really a bi-directional link that we need to build. It's not just handing out scientific wisdom, but it's really what we today call co-generating relevant. So in that sense, I'm happy to engage in this dialogue. Yeah, let's start from the type of science we're engaged in at the Potsdam Institute, which is about Earth system science, about the Anthropocene, where we see this rapid acceleration of many trends, not all of which are positive for the environment. We're driving the Earth system as a whole, but also many of its elements, water, land, atmosphere, climate, towards some critical points that we call tipping points, where, as you were saying before, Tobias, where there may be rapid, sudden, unexpected changes once we cross these tipping points. And we all know about the earlier 2-degree target of climate, now 1.5-degree target. And we are now developing, or at least trying to identify, similar critical thresholds within the Earth system related to water, related to land, related to the biosphere, from which we should stay away in a precautionary way. It's a complex picture, it's a system, and hence there are many interactions and feedbacks. We see cascading effects. But after all, we are able to identify these critical limits and what we call planetary boundaries that we should observe. And we are building analysis with partners, with actors in something we call science-based targets network. So we start providing quantitative information, hard numbers of where we should stay within what we call staying within the safe operating space. So that's where we come from. But then, of course, it's a matter of creating this information, making it targeted for specific contexts. So to come from this scientific information to actionable knowledge. That's what we would like to work on with partners from private sector, from companies, but also others. And in that sense, I believe the missions are an excellent way forward to do that. So to move from knowledge to action, stating that we do know enough to act now. And that, I guess, brings us to the second thesis, which is to move from attitude to action. And maybe I can hand back to you, Tobias, to talk a bit about how this has been done in the missions.
Yes, of course. And I think if we think about business, business feel a lot of pressure on this topic at the moment. When we talk with companies and with innovators, they always tell us, well, there's of course more regulation coming up. We need to apply certain regulation and we are limited in ways in which we do our business. Then there's also the consumers who demand new solutions, new sustainable solutions. We have the investors who increasingly put pressure on us to become more sustainable. Green investments is the topic here. So there's pressure coming from a lot of sides. And if you remember the Fridays for Future movement, of course, it's the young generation also that puts a lot of pressure on companies and politicians to act. And as Holger said, it's really, there's an urgency to act now. We cannot wait for much longer. And when we talk to business leaders, our understanding is that more and more business leaders are really aware that they need to act and that they need to act now. And they really want to act. And if we talk about innovations, then of course, this mission program is the perfect example of how this could work, because it's young talents coming together with established and also with some younger companies, developing ideas together to find solutions that can really have an impact. Because like we need to move from attitude to action, we also need to get from interest to impact. Yeah, it's important that we have an impact and get things done. And what Holger just mentioned, the science-based targets, that is a good way of connecting science and practice for this very goal. Because the science-based targets define, for the topic of climate change and carbon emissions, define the budgets that each individual company and each sector can still emit. Yeah? So we look from the very end, what is still there to be emitted, and then ask ourselves, how can we actually change our business operations, our way of doing business in order to meet these goals and these boundaries. And this very, very much connects to the planetary boundaries concept that Holger has been talking about. And that is one of the main concepts from science. And talking to the teams, we will have our first sustainability workshop next week. I think it's on Wednesday next week. And we will definitely talk about this and what it means for your idea development and solution development. Back to you, Holger.
Yeah. When talking about moving from knowledge to action, two things come to mind. One is this urgency that you just highlighted. It is also making it so important to act now and act rapidly and act together, I might say. I'm saying that in front of several scientific reports that have come out over the years, the latest one just last week, which very impressively demonstrate how delaying action further makes it so much more difficult and costly to stay within a safe operating space. So the Bain report that came out quite a few years back, where Nicholas Stern from the UK pointed out that now and starting to bend the curve now, reduce emissions as quickly as possible and not wait until 2020, 2030 to peak emissions, will make it so much easier to reach the target, which is to say to decarbonize by mid of the century completely, than waiting. And so I've seen these curves where you start bending it, the steeper the slope has to become to come down to zero. And last week, the so-called Dasgupta report came out, which has the same message on the biosphere, on biodiversity, on the economics of biodiversity, it's called, which says the same thing. If we let this terrible trend of reducing biodiversity, of letting species get extinct, continue longer, it becomes so much more critical to maintain our Earth system and our immediate environment. So that's one thing that not only that we need to have a precautionary approach, like the planetary boundaries request, but that we need to act very quickly, that we cannot wait any longer. And the second is, it's not enough to slightly twist some of these levers that we have, but we really have to think about transformative change. Whatever that means, that needs to be defined. But business as usual with slight incremental improvements, slight efficiency improvements is no longer enough. So it really needs transformations, which is a big word and really needs to be operationalized in many ways. But I believe there are good examples how to transform the energy sector, how to transform mobility, how to transform the way we eat. I think we can have these discussions, for example, on mobility. There are many aspects to that which go beyond, let's say, simple technical fixes. So these two elements of moving quickly in a transformative way, and then, of course, doing it together, which is basically the third thesis that we have. Collaborate across actors and sectors is what really is important to my mind, to our mind, I should say. So with this urgency that we just talked about, there's also no room for, for pushing responsibility to someone else. It really has to be by everyone. As Tobias was saying, policymakers have to provide the right boundary conditions. Companies, the private sector, have to be innovative, have to come up with new solutions. Each and every one of us, of course, has to act and to rethink his or her behavior. And of course, there's also a role for science. And all of these have to play together in what I would call coalitions. So you will probably never get all on board. You will always have those laggards. You will always have some skeptics. But that must not be an excuse. So we have to find those that are willing to act now in all of these sectoral sectors. Innovations, that may be my last point on this one. Of course, technological innovations that you're all driving are key. But again, that's probably not enough by itself. I could now talk about what's called the rebound effect, which kind of eats up technological improvements. But after is innovations at all fronts, I would say. So technological innovations is one. We need innovations in, let's say, the political system, new types of policies that provide incentives to behave more sustainably. But we also need social innovations, I suppose, where we behave and act differently, where our values change, and then we can reconsider also what tipping points could do, which is the next point, and I'm on it, and then ask Tobias to come in. I already mentioned tipping points in a biophysical, natural science sense. We start seeing these tipping points in the environment at different scales, and we're afraid that these may also apply in the biophysical environment at global scale, that we see certain tippings in the Earth system, be it related to the ice shields, be it related to permafrost, be it related to huge ecosystems like the Amazon rainforest. Once those tip, that may be irreversible. We may have crossed the threshold and we can simply not move back to the previous stage, which may have been preferable. But that same principle of tip may also apply in a social sense. Actually be beneficial. That's where we should look for opportunities. So a very simple example that many of you would be have been not conscious about is that of stop smoking, quit smoking. which seems to have tipped many societies, where all of a sudden smoking is no longer acceptable. And it has happened relatively rapidly. It hasn't been a linear steady process, and we may see these tippings in other societies. Just look at mobility. Look at cars and trucks. You may have observed these recent news articles where one car and truck producer after the other is announcing to get rid of combustion engines, some of them very quickly. So it's like all of a sudden a wave that sweeps through the mobility system. And we may see similar tipping points in socioeconomic, institutional, political. And also, obviously, we need to influence and to shape so that they tip towards more sustainable futures. And maybe just to end on that one from my side, unless we are prepared and unless we use all tools we have, scenarios, predictions, to anticipate these kind of rapid changes, we may end up with, let's say, in dead-end situations. We may end up with stranded assets. So this is quite important to look into the future, and I believe it's something where science can help other actors to do that scenario exercise. Tobias, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Holger. You mentioned many important issues. I want to maybe come back to the collaboration across actors and sectors, because this is something that can really push transformation. And you were mentioning e-mobility. We had a discussion with one of the CEOs of a German leading car manufacturer who says, yeah, of course, we will, in 10 years or so from now, only sell electric vehicles anymore. And it's, of course, important for that we have a charging grid all over Europe, from northern Sweden to southern Italy, so that we can drive without interruptions. But we also need the acceptance of the consumers. The solutions must be competitive, etc. And in order to make this work and the transformation of energy in general, we need to come together as business from different sectors and politics as well. And I will quickly mention an initiative that we started about a year ago. It's called REACT, Responsibility and Action. This is where we bring together leading CEOs from German companies, from very different sectors, from real estate, from the steel producing, the automotive, from insurance, finance, etc., to come together and develop a joint perspective to speed up energy transition in Germany and in Europe. And we've just come out with a position paper on this, and it's really, really interesting to see how new solutions come up when you leave your silo, when you leave your sector and your company perspective, and think about how the others can benefit from your moves and how these moves can come together. So this is especially in Germany, where we have decided to move out of coal and nuclear power at the same time. We really need to speed up the transition to alternative energies. And I think we all must do our part. And if we all move together, then we can really transform the situation, but also maybe achieve a tipping point. Holger, back to you. You, in one of our discussions, said that Corona could be a tipping point also. How does the Corona crisis, maybe in the light of the importance of science and whether we listen to science or not, whether the Corona crisis is a tipping point? Does that help us?
Well, you're risking get me into a lecture now. There's a lot to be said about that, but I'll be very brief on it. Yes, indeed, it is. It is one of those crises, shocks that science has been anticipating for quite some time. Pandemics is maybe the most rapid and obvious one, but then all of you would know other shocks, let's say climate extremes, for example, that will also become more frequent. They're all interlinked. The climate change, the biosphere degradation, zoonotic pandemics, they're all interlinked, make us aware of the fact that we have to prepare. And the way we phrase it is to build resilience, which is to be better prepared, to be more robust against shocks, surprises, unpleasant surprises in particular. There's a lot to be said about how to do that, building diversity, building redundancy, not relying on efficiency maximization only. But indeed, in that sense, it could be a tipping point towards what we call building back better and accelerate some of these changes and transformations that must happen anyways. And then the other perspective here is that right now we see much more attention to the voice of science. So that hopefully will be something also to keep in mind. And I'm not saying that because I'm a scientist myself. It's my strong belief that evidence-based decision-making is much better than some of the irrational or politicized decision-making we see. So in that sense, yes, I believe there is a point also. Last point, the positive narratives. To me, that is extremely important. I've seen again and again that there is a big risk when presenting the facts in a negative or even only rational way. You receive or you are met with resistance. Think of examples such as there was a party that promoted a so-called Veggie Day. That wasn't received very well because it was seen as, you don't want us to do this and that. There was no narrative that said what could be the benefits of changing our diets towards more diverse, more healthy diets. I'm not a vegetarian myself. I'm just saying be open for new solutions and try to see positive elements in them. The current discussion, the current discussion from the same political party may not be able to allow building these single family houses unlimitedly. That is, again, coming with a narrative of someone wants to prevent us from living the way we wish to live. Couldn't that be also a positive spin to that? We reduce the eating up of our landscape and of our nature, and at the same time, we look for new ways of living together, living in units, housing where you have several generations in the same house. So I think you need to look broader and you need to find win-wins. The one I'm really after is mobility in cities, where, again, the discussion is quite limited. We're not allowed anymore to drive in certain parts of the city. Someone wants us to stop using our car. That's the negative narrative. What about trying to see it in a broader and more positive way of opening new opportunities, opening space? I'm quite familiar with the Vienna example, where they sometimes close streets and reopen them for pedestrians, for kids to play, for greening them, for new ways of living together, reducing noise, reducing pollution, even touching upon social issues where this increasing inequity that becomes a big problem in many respects is overcome to some extent, because all of a sudden you have meeting spaces where people meet that wouldn't meet normally. So I'm not very, how to say, demagogic here. I'm just trying to say, if we look for positive narratives, ways forward that have win-wins, smart, climate-friendly, livable cities that provide more equity, more health and recreation opportunities, that to my mind is a better narrative than just saying you're no longer allowed to use your car in this particular street. So that's the way I see the need for positive narratives. And I do believe that can also be fostered in your missions, in our missions, let's say, the future missions. Tobias, maybe you want to dwell on that?
Well, definitely. I think we're running out of time. We could be discussing this for much, much longer. But Holger, you're right. Promoting a positive narrative is also very much what the mission is about, because it's about new solutions, finding new solutions to existing problems that are sustainable. And maybe one last thought from my side. When we will work with the teams on the innovations, we will use a new framework that we have developed last year. It's called the Footprint, Handprint, Heartprint framework. The idea is not to just think about how we can reduce the negative impact on our planet and society, the footprint. This is what most of the discussion centers around at the moment, but also look for more positive narratives. How can we increase the handprint, do something positive, for example, to strengthen the resilience of the planet? And also heartprint. We need to win the hearts of people so that they want to change their behavior, become more sustainable, come up with new sustainable ideas. So we will use this positive narrative and try to help you, the teams, and also the corporates in discussions. Just reach out to us. We are happy to discuss many topics with you. But now is the time to hand back to Vanessa. Thank you very much, Holger. It's always a pleasure to discuss with you, and I look forward to our continued collaboration in many levels and many ways. Back to you, Vanessa, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you. It's a pleasure to listen to you, but also to have you as part of our team, which I think is crucial because, as you all know, the mission is about sustainability. So we want to make sure that sustainability is also part of the program and that we have sufficient time for the teams with experts who then also talk about the sustainability in their ideas. So thank you very much. Good. I'm glad we touched base the sustainability topic now. And now I would like to start off a conversation with our corporate partners more around mobility. So we're moving into the mobility topic. Mobility Be Urban is the name of our mission. So I'm very happy to have a conversation now with our dear panelists and participants on the panel. Let me quickly introduce them to you. So first of all, we have Guiseppe Fiordispina, so hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Guiseppe is the marketing director of Zayer Germany, and as you know, Zayer is our premium partner mission. So I'm very happy to have Guiseppe and his team on board, and also for the conversation in a second about trends and future of mobility. Then also we have Dr. Zayer with us from Bain & Company. Bain & Company is one of our initiators and also heavily involved in our program as the teams, they have their deep dive sessions with Bain & Company. And Eric is an expert in the field of automotive and mobility. So I'm very happy to have Eric with us. He will give some good insights as well from a broader perspective. And then lastly, we have Jan-Erik Putze. He is the CEO of Droniq. So some people might ask, so what is Droniq all about? A little bit, I think you can guess already as part of the name. It comes from drone. So Droniq is a digital platform for drone flights and more to come, I guess, over the course of the program. But I'm also very happy to have Jan-Erik Putze with us. Okay, good. So today we would like to talk about the future of mobility and changes in mobility. So I would like to structure the conversation into 3 areas. Number 1 being trends, like typical trends and the future of mobility. Number 2 being customer acceptance, because I think that's overall quite crucial. So what are customers and the users, how do they like new mobility options? And lastly, which is quite important for us, I would like to give you also the opportunity to give advice to our teams who are just kicking off and starting. All right, so let's start off with the first piece, which is about the trends, the mobility of the trends. So one of the key trends, as we learned, is from macro to micro. So from macro to micro, it sounds great, and it feels like there's tons of option out there in the market and what you can do. So there's a clear trend in that space. And the question in general is, do people really need all these kind of options they can use? There's lots of out there. So I would like to start with Guiseppe. And so in the onboarding week, which we had 1.5 weeks ago, Bain was also talking about the major trends in mobility. And one of them was mobility on demand. So just when you need mobility, you get mobility, you hop on a scooter or whatever. And the other trend was about intermodal mobility services and solutions, so how you can bring together like different kind of ways of mobility. As we have Zayer with us as a premium partner and Guiseppe, I think it would be quite interesting to understand, Guiseppe, how Zayer is positioning in specific in that field around new trends in mobility.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. To your question, I think, we see ourselves in the future indeed as a mobility provider beyond the hardware, and I think this is a topic where quite the whole industry is thinking about, and part of the transformation we are living at the moment, and particularly for Zayer, I think the concept of offering intermodal mobility solution, meaning the car, but also other transportation or mobility possibilities, is something which gives us, as the youngest automotive brand, based on the average customer age, a big opportunity. And somehow I see it as a door opener into our vision of becoming more a mobility provider rather than offering hardware in terms of car. As you know, we are heavily working on some products and mobility solutions like our electric scooters. And I think this is just the start and the first step into giving the people the possibility of alternative mobility beyond the classical car.
Thank you, Guiseppe, for that insight from Zayer perspective. So now we have Eric. And Eric, I think you are working with quite some automotive companies and clients. So I guess you see not only automotive, but maybe also other transportation companies. And you see partially maybe trends or where companies are developing into. And looking now at a bigger picture, what would you say are the biggest kind of profit pools, or how you can make also business out of that? Because it's not only to have fun, but also how can companies make business out of it? And then secondly, what do you see are the biggest challenges in getting there and getting profit and having a business case around new mobility solutions?
Yeah, very happy to have a look at that. I think the first big challenge when talking about the profit pools is that timing is very important here. I mean, when we look at, say, the near future until 2025, probably we will see that the profit pools will resemble still pretty much today's world, meaning that there is a large profit pool in the existing business that is around producing and selling the metal, the cars. It's around after sales, it's around the used car business, it's around financing solutions, ensuring the mobility. That is by far, when we look at the profit pools today, the largest profit pool. And that makes it so challenging, because when you look at all the mobility offerings, you see a very wide range from, say, classical mobility products like rental, for example, that produce very good margins. Some micro mobilities like scooter offering okayish margins, and other mobility offerings like car sharing or even ride hailing offering no margins and no profit at all today. Obviously that picture changes dramatically when you look at 2030 and a post-autonomous world where you can provide very different offerings. In that world, obviously we can see that services that are not profitable today, like ride-hailing, which will then turn into robo-cab worlds, etc., will become much more profitable to the detriment of profit pools that are very profitable today, like for example selling cars, the pure metal provision, right? For micromobility, the question is where will it land? How will all that turn out? But I think what we foresee is that there will be a major profit pool shift coming in the next years. Looking at the challenge, I think that in itself is a huge challenge, because you cannot look at what is there today and then go for it. That would be the easiest. So that is already not possible. I think the second challenge is that many of those new mobility offerings, we foresee the winner takes it all future, because many of the mobility offerings that we look at will be platform businesses. That's why companies like Uber, like Lyft, and many others are investing heavily in gaining ground, and they are burning money. And the question is, number one, how long can you burn money before you have to turn out a profit? And number two is, will the companies be able to make that switch from being very good at growing and burning money into becoming real profitable companies? And I think those will be the major challenges, the strong shifts in the value pools, and that ability to turn around market gaining into a profitable business.
Very interesting, and I was nodding. I was thinking, yeah, absolutely right. So thank you, Eric, for that insight. So now, and you talked about platforms and the relevance of platforms, and so we have Jan-Erik with us, and Jan-Erik is from the drones business and the flights business, and everybody knows that drones are like still somehow exciting, but also like like sometimes people feel like risk, what's going to happen, and how does the future look like, and will be our cities and the world be controlled via drones? So, Jan-Erik, maybe you can give us your perspective on how the future, like far away, will look like with drones, and if they conquer our cities, or what's going to happen.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. Also for being part of that panel. It's very interesting for me. It's the first time for a virtual panel. So let me just add one thing to Jan. This is all correct what you said, but there's another, let's say, challenge we have to overcome, and this is the integrating. We have to, let's say, align the drone business with the existing aviation environment. And this is something which people are always missing. But so that's really sad that we cannot really get into conversation, but maybe we can do that on a later stage. So coming back to your question, Vanessa, I think drones they're already there. Maybe not the big drones, maybe the smaller ones, taking pictures in cities. This is actually currently happening, also in Germany, and I think all over the world. But of course, here we're talking about small drones, maybe a kilogram or even less, but just taking pictures. And this is what we have now. If you take a look in the future, what we will see, I think, for taxi drones, the time will come, but not before 2025 or even 2030, because I think they have to interact then also with the current airspace and let's say if you have an exhibition, for example, and then you want to go get your aircraft, and then you have to taxi from the exhibition hall directly to the airport, the better directly to the aircraft where you actually want to depart. I think this is actually future, and but if we go to the logistics sector of transport, I think we will see in the very near future, 1 or 2 years, that we really find robust and robust drones who can really transport products. Maybe not the last mile, but even maybe it depends where you go. This is actually the market we see evolving and really getting growth and speed up. But of course, kind of the question is what kind of goods we will be transporting. For example, vaccines are actually in the very popular currently, and they will be transported via drones if it's possible. But blood, for example, is currently dangerous goods in Germany, so it's a little bit difficult. But there are other things drones can do. We can also do inspection flights, maybe not in cities, because cities is, of course, a high populated area. And we have the problem currently when you fly in cities. What about GPS signals in between buildings and stuff like that? So there are some technical problems we have to overcome. But I think this will work in a couple of years, in 2 to 3 years. I think this will definitely be true in our cities. And if you have seen the film Fifth Element with Bruce Willis, I think this scenario will take another 15 to 20 years.
Thank you, Jan-Erik. I'm excited about to hear that at some point in time, 25, I think you said, that we're going to have already like drone taxis. So that's not far away, yeah?
Well, I said they started. I don't think
started,
we have
okay. So not to get too excited. All right, okay, good. So moving ahead now from the future and maybe coming back to the current space and situation, I would like to talk about customer acceptance and users, because all these trends has also shown that people are not only using different kind of mobility options and services, but also I think like the whole social behavior, social trend, how you travel from A to B is changing. So it's not anymore just like, okay, I'll either take the taxi or the bike, but the whole pattern is changing. And this is also mainly driven by clearly technology, of course, as we talked about platform, but also I think about the trends and the social trends and how people behave and change their behavior towards traveling. So I was wondering, who is driving what? Kind of a little bit the chicken and the egg. So is this rather a trend driven by people because they're changing their behavior? Or is this rather a trend driven by technology because there's new technologies out? So I would like to start with Eric from Bain and Company, especially because you have the bigger picture in mind. Would you say that this change is rather driven by people changing their behavior or by technology, or maybe both?
Well, I think, of course, we see huge technological advancements in many areas, right? I think the whole drone topic is something that you know, we just did not have it in a technologically and affordable way. Ubiquitous internet is something we only have for a few decades, and we are slowly getting used to it, I would say. So clearly, technology is a big enabler. However, I think there is one big driver that we are still missing in the discussion, and that is regulation. I think regulation is driving a lot and will be driving even more, especially when you look at large cities. I think in Europe, only Paris and London are really playing in that league, and that's where you also see the first steps that they take big influence in how mobility looks in their cities, right? Versus probably cities that can afford to be a little bit more waiting there, like for example Munich, right, which is still very luxurious. But I think cities will play a big role in making sure that air pollution, traffic congestion, and quality of life are in a good shape. So I think regulation will drive a lot of what can be done and what cannot be done. And however, I think that apart from technology that will be the enabler, regulation that can be a driver, I think the ultimate proof point is raw customer need. We as Bain strongly believe that every great innovation is creating a customer need or satisfying an always existing customer need. And I think that is the big difference between fads, trends and hypes that come but that go very fast, or real changes. And I think that's I would say also the interesting part about life. Sometimes you need to experiment and see whether there is a real customer need, right? Who would have thought that a telephone without buttons could fulfill a new customer need? I must admit, I wouldn't have thought it, but now in my 15th year, probably using the iPhone, I can say it has created a need. And so I think we will see a lot of experimentation, but I would say that everything that lasts will be driven by real customer needs. So looking at the customer for me is always the top pick, keeping in mind the regulation and the technology as an enabler.
Thank you, Eric. And of course, the customer is key. That's why I'm pretty sure that also Zayer is doing quite some, not only research, but also user testing and looking into data and then analyzing data in terms of how certain kind of vehicles and services are being used. So over to Giuseppe, we would be interested in what are the, I mean, you're doing this, I assume, for your scooters and any vehicles. So what are the kind of key challenges when you look into the analysis and the challenges of customers using your vehicles?
Yeah, look, Vanessa, I think coming just back to what just has been mentioned, I think technology, it's not a question about technology or people. I think it's the mix of both. Yeah, technology needs to make people's life more easy and provide hassle-free solutions. Otherwise, people will not respond to it. But on the other side, we know, and this is part of the research, and this is also one of the drivers why we decided to come up with new mobility products. We know that among the youngest, when it comes to mobility, 50% of the people living in urban areas are not keen anymore to make a driving license. This is partly to the new mobility solutions on the one hand, but also it's heavily driven by the easy access, and this comes from technology. So people have much more possibilities to move, and I think this is the main driver for the young generation to question somehow if they would need a driving license and therefore using a car. And I think the challenge we are facing at the moment, and good examples, but also we see that this is a struggle, is the cooperation with the public institutions, because we're talking about placing a platform or on a new mobility offer in the cities. We have to, of course, talk and negotiate with the public institutions in the cities and many other stakeholders. And I think this is what makes this program or this strategy, on the one hand, important because we see a customer need and a shift. On the other side, very complex because there are many stakeholders involved.
Thank you, Giuseppe. I just needed to laugh because when you said, think about myself, when you said young generation is not so much looking into more everyone to get a driving license. So I still remember when I became 18, this was like the goal of the universe to do your driving license even when you were 17, so that at the day you are turning 18, you have your driving license and your car in place, and you are kind of free. So and I have to say, yeah, it's absolutely right. The younger generation is not that big dream anymore to have driving license straight away. There's other kind of objectives and goals, and of course then also companies need to adjust to this. So that's a very good point. So thank you very much for that insight. And lastly, Jan-Erik, talking about acceptance of customers, I know that there's different kind of thoughts about drones. When will that happen, that drones are being fully accepted? Or maybe this is also a regulation topic, as we just learned from Eric. But what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, that's. I think it also comes with the customer. Maybe not the customer, but we need the acceptance of people living in cities, or let's say not even cities. We need just the acceptance that drones are now also not only a toy, they are now a tool, and they help fulfill, let's say, needs. And as coming back to Eric, is what he said. I mean, if we don't find needs for customers, then the drones, they just will not come. But it's definitely the acceptance, and this is all what matters. We have to ensure to the public that drones are safe, that they can be integrated in existing environments, even if it's cities, streets, airspace, whatsoever. They need to be safely integrated, and the people should have the feeling everything has been taken care of to ensure that nothing bad would happen. I know that accidents happens on streets, but when a drone crashes, it's I don't know, maybe 10 times worse than a car accident, because you know what a car accident is, but you don't know what could happen when the drone falls on the street, or maybe on a kindergarten, or I don't know, on public areas and hurt people. This is a scenario people just they haven't seen that, and this is something new, and the change is always difficult. And that's why I said we need acceptance, and we need to take the people with us on that journey. Otherwise, it's very difficult to have drones flying in populated areas. I think that's the major part. And also coming back to about regulation, maybe you've heard that yesterday the European Commission voted a big yes on the drone regulation. So this will be in place in January 2023. Even in Germany. So we now need all to be, and you have to do everything to make that even possible. And and it's all about integrating safely, of course, drones into our existing environment. And this is also what the mission is there for, to ensure that. And of course, not only safe, but also sustainable. And I think this is the major goal within the next years, setting the infrastructure and making that possible on every side. It's of course a customer who wants to fly somewhere. It's companies offering services. It's even us to ensure that everything is safe. Having interactions with public transportation and creating needs that people really want, and this is actually the major part. If we're not creating needs, it's actually with Eric, I think that's definitely right. If we don't create the need, then the drone market will not evolve with that power as we are seeing it currently. So I think that's the very crucial part.
All right, thank you very much. The need to be created. We have the teams in place to create that need, or look at least into the need. So lastly, I know we're running a little bit late, but lastly, I would like to have your advice for the teams on not only the teams, but the corporates, but in specific also the teams, what you would give them as advice for the next 3 months of the program. Maybe Giuseppe, if you still can hop in, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds probably a little bit generic, but I think the most important thing, and this is what drives us as a mantra somehow, is this very, I think, well-known quote saying, "Old ways don't open new doors." And I think this is what we should pursue. And I'm inviting the teams to think beyond what probably is something they or we are doing or capable of right now, because this is the reason why we're doing this. I mean, we need to think probably also from a bird view. And I know it may sound very generic, but it's a very important topic to me. Because otherwise we are not able to have a new thinking or new idea on these topics, and this is what we desperately need. Sorry, and with this I have to leave because I'm very running late.
Thank you very much.
So sorry for that, but and thank you for your time. Bye.
We'll see you back in later. Bye. Thank you, Giuseppe. Okay. Lastly, Eric. Advice for the teams.
Yes, I think I can only mirror what Giuseppe said. I think first advice is be courageous, push the boundaries. Second, when doing so, think of the customer and think of pain points. Thinking about existing pain points is key, and having a good understanding of inefficiencies in the market. That is always a big help for me when I think about new businesses or opportunities. And third, think of the whole value chain. I know that, coming from, say, a student's perspective, we always have the end customer view in mind and take a very strong B2C focus. What can we sell to a person that is needing mobility? But think of the full value chain. Think of all the stakeholders that are in there. A lot of, say, the most profitable elements are often the B2B elements, right? Like in the gold rush, the people selling the pants have always made profit. Those that found gold sometimes have been lucky, sometimes not. So think of the full value chain and don't get stuck on thinking about the end consumer. I think those would be my three vectors that I put on the way for you.
Nice, thank you. And Jan-Erik.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to repeat everything. I think everything has been said. I would just want to add two small little things from my perspective, especially when you talk about air mobility. Think beyond borders. I think this is very interesting, and don't look too much into regulation, because we have maybe somehow to overcome regulation on sometimes.
Good point.
And the other second thing, I think it's important. If it's a new market, and the drone market is kind of new, you cannot go backwards and see what has been done in the past 5 years, because there was no market. So maybe take the position from just yourself. What do you think might be needed? It's also maybe a good idea to start. Yeah, just think beyond every borders and come up with new ideas. And I think that's what we're all really waiting for. I think this is very, very exciting for us.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think we have the right corporate partners on board to push the limits to our teams, which I do hope. So please, to all of you, challenge them as much as you can. And then I think we're going to have some great results. So thank you, Eric from Bain. Thank you, Jan-Erik. Jan-Erik and Erik from Droniq. And we'll see you later around. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, finally, I know it took some time, but hopefully you got some impressions and some ideas and new thoughts about sustainability, and also then in general about trends in mobility, which is our whole mission about. So now we're coming to the team's pitches, and I just have one kind of informative slide for you on how that's going to work. So as you know, we're going to have 5 teams. That's the order of our teams. So first of all, we'll start with intermodal vehicle drone delivery, followed by multimodal mobility. Then we have a break, and then the other 3 will come. The teams now have 5 to 8 minutes max to pitch their ideas. So it's really a pitch. It's not a documentation. It's not a normal presentation. It's really to pitch on what they have been working on in the last 1.5 weeks. Max 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more. And then we have like 1 feedback giver per team. Because we all, the corporates know that we're going to have a detailed feedback session tomorrow. So please all make all your notes, think about what you want to share maybe afterwards with the teams, because we're only going to have 1 organized feedback giver who's kind of briefed up front, and the rest then will come tomorrow. So I'm very happy. I know first is always most tricky and difficult, but I'm very happy to hand over now to Marvin from Team Intermodal Vehicle Drone Delivery. So we're following on with the drone discussion. So over to Marvin.
Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, so welcome from my side also to this exciting morning of the kickoff day. My name is Marvin, and I'm here in behalf of the team Goldfinch. So imagine you're a patient and you're suffering from a life-threatening emergency, and you're going to see this person, a doctor. And this doctor will be kind of hopeless because look at his face. He's helpless. And that's not due to the fact that he cannot help you. I mean, he has the skills, he has the capabilities to help you, but he's lacking one thing. And that's medical supply he needs for your urgent surgery. And actually, lack of supply is a really common thing all over the world when it comes to surgery treatment. But that's not the only application field in hospital when it comes to the fact that time in delivery matters. So there are multiple fields of applications in the hospital area, and that's why our key customer for now is the hospital itself. But now, get back to the point. We believe that, oh, sorry, I'll start again with that. Let's get back to the point. So actually, how can we solve that time gap in the delivery of medical supply? How can we do that? I mean, that's the most important issue here at hand. So look, I guess we have to take a look into how the sourcing and journey of supply for medical goods works. And I would like to start with a fact. So 75% of all medical goods in Germany get sourced from abroad. That's a huge number, isn't it? So that's why we brought this example over here. Imagine we are sourcing from the United States and bringing this really urgent medical supply over here to Europe, to Germany, to University Hospital in Gießen. So you can divide this journey into two parts. The first part is like kind of the long distance over the Atlantic Ocean, and the second part is rather like the short distance over here within Germany. So the first journey takes 2 days, and the second journey, departing from Frankfurt Airport to University Hospital Gießen, takes 1 day. So 2 days for about 10,000 kilometers and 1 day for 50 kilometers? Like, really? Or to phrase it differently, like for the long journey, we are facing over here like a kind of speedy delivery with the airplane. But then when it comes to the second journey, we are moving the parcel in the speed of a snail, and that's what I show you over here. I mean, we actually have to zoom in to see like this distance is so small. And I mean, now the question would be, why don't we change the last mile delivery also into the air, and thereby speeding up this last mile delivery process? And that's actually the perfect point to introduce you to Goldfinch. We believe the future is in the air. Okay, that's great, right? Cool vision, but how are we going to do that? So our idea is to be a connector. We want, with a software platform, match the demand side with the supply side, referring to the needs of hospitals for fast and urgent delivery, and then also the supply side, the drone delivery companies. But how can we do that, or how can we help the market to come to the point that our solution is ready to take off? That's where we actually see a 3-step gradual approach. First of all, we have to run some analysis to spot potential areas that are interesting to get the drone delivery started. Secondly, we're going to build on that and create an availability map for drone delivery. And there can be first testimonials, for example. And then, based on those both points, we will combine all our knowledge and build the final platform when the market is more in its later stage. So the question is always, if you offer a solution, what is in for you? What is in for society? And what's in for the environment? So with our solution, we're gonna reduce CO2 emissions in the last mile delivery. Also, we're gonna support the development of the drone market. And lastly, and that's for me personally really important and also for the team, we create a positive impact on the people's life. Just want to remind you to the first intro slide where we said we have a patient that needs urgent surgery, but there was a lack of delivery and we had this time gap. That's what we're gonna try to solve, this time gap. And that's why we have a positive impact on people's life. So for now, I would like to say, connect with us. If you liked our idea, if you want to share insight, if you want to discuss it, and just if you want to give some feedback, we are here for you. And it's not only me, it's the whole team. It's an amazing team. I would really love to share with you who is in the team with me. So we have here Neil, our project manager, the visionary person in our team. Then there's Anurag, the product manager, and also kind of the thinker. But also we have the creative part in our team, and that's Natalia, our innovation manager. And also when it comes to discussions in the team, the voice of reason. And I guess that's really important. And last but not least, myself, my name is Marvin, as I already mentioned. I'm the strategy manager and I'm the positive spirit. So once more, thank you for your attention, and always remember, the future is in the air. Thank you. So I'd like to hand over to Vanessa real quick.
Yes. Thank you. Woohoo! first pitch is done. So big applause for the teams. Also sitting now in the other room and seeing that. So great stuff. I'm quite excited, I have to say. So as mentioned, we're going to have one person who's going to give feedback. The rest, please make notes. And as Marvin was mentioning, reach out. We'll have lots of time tomorrow to engage. So we have, as I've learned, as you know, one of our corporate partners is Wingcopter. And Wingcopter is the producer of drones, super exciting. And so we have Ansgar Kadura with us today, who would like to give some feedback on the pitch and the idea to the team and Marvin. So over to you again, Marvin.
I'm gonna jump right in. Here, welcome. Okay, so right now it's hard for me to understand you. Okay, so maybe we just give it a second. Sometimes the internet connection has a trouble or something. Okay, so I just get some feedback. So please try to unmute yourself so that we can hear you over here in the studio as well. I know you're gone. Okay, I mean, maybe the others can use the time to connect to us already and type in the email address and send some feedback or some ideas. That would be really nice, because we are super open to that. And then hopefully we will be back soon. Hey!
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I thought it was a quick feedback, just thumbs up, and then you're good to go. No, just kidding. First of all, yeah, I really liked your pitch. So presentation was done very well. I can really feel that the future is in the air. Was a very nice presentation. Going to the input, I think it's very good. You have been very, I would say, very precise with what you want to solve or with the problem description. You say it's an emergency, it's for hospitals, and it's solving like or speeding up the last mile or the second part of the supply. What I would question a little bit is if this is really happening in this to this extent. Yeah, is in the case of an emergency, really a hospital in Germany ordering like from the manufacturer in the US, and is it really taking 2 days to ship the goods to Europe and then transport it to the hospital, or is the medication stored somewhere in Germany already and then can be quickly distributed? That's what came to my mind. So, but overall, the problem description I liked. I would challenge it in this way and kind of I would like to know more about it. Then
Okay, yeah. Please. Thank you for that. I guess there is a lot of stuff we can discuss later on that, because it's super interesting. I think it's not only medication, there's even more to it. But yeah, we have made our mind up for that, so I'm super happy to discuss that with you, actually.
Perfect.
So get over to Vanessa then again.
Yes, okay, good. All right, thank you very much. I think there was some connectivity issues, so apologies. Hopefully we can follow up then tomorrow and have your insights. Thank you very much, Ansgar, and talk soon. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we have our second team. And as we learned that multimodal mobility is one of the key trends, I'm very happy and glad that we have one of our teams looking into this. And so I would like to hand over now to Benjamin, who will introduce you to the idea and potential solution of multimodal mobility. So over to Benjamin.
Thank you, Vanessa. Hello everyone, I'm Ben. And what you just heard and saw is a landscape shock that I experienced a few years ago. I was born and raised in a rural area of France, and at that time, my freedom was my bike. I used to bike for my hobby, but also to use it as my means of transportation to travel around the town and meet my friends. Actually, to go a bit further, I was very reliant on my parents' car, but most important, on their will to drive me around, which led to interesting debates in the family. For my studies, I had to move to Paris, and actually this lovely countryside environment was replaced into another crowded Paris, and it was overnight. Actually, the shock was huge, and even though I was kind of a bit relieved not to have my parents on my back anymore, I was really overwhelmed by all the lifestyle changes that I had to face. One of the most significant is obviously mobility. I quickly understood that a bike wouldn't do the trick to all my travels around the city, and I have to say that I was a bit lost, and I lost money, time, and energy trying to find my ways in this big city. And I discovered new means of transportation, get used to them, but it took me some time to master them. In the end, I spent 3 years in Paris, I spent a year in London, I traveled to big cities like New York or Tokyo, Beijing, and I am now used to big city life. I then call myself an active urban citizen. I am also very aware of the environmental impact of my lifestyle. I studied environmental issues on 3 different continents, and this is really something that matters to me. I am also an early adopter. By this, I mean that I'm curious and I'm always looking for new apps or mobility features or something else to optimize my lifestyle. In the past year, I became a huge fan of multimodal options, and today I really believe that you can be as mobile with all the means of transportation available in the cities as you can be mobile with your own car. And actually, in Germany, 38% of the population agrees. And I'm very excited to see this number increase in the years to come as we will develop new options, but also have new ways to handle our complex journeys. If we have a look to my journey line, actually, it doesn't really matter the city I am in or the country I am in. Actually, I will just leave my house in the morning and I will spend the day outside. I might go to a class or a workshop, do a bit of teamwork or have an appointment. I might also go in a coffee to work, meet friends, go to the gym, then go back to my place. During this day, I will discover new areas of the cities. I will discover new streets. I will discover new public transport lines that I didn't knew before, and I will be fully reliant on my smartphone and the navigation app, actually. But not that sure you're that interested in my daily routine, but the point here is that you also are active citizens. I mean by this that, as myself, you must travel across the city you are in for your daily activities, whether it is going to the groceries, going to a restaurant, collecting a parcel, going to a cultural place. You need to move, and actually what we all want is to go from point A to point B and do so like the cheapest, the fastest, the easiest. And at the moment, navigation app can allow us to do it a bit. Still, I believe we share common pain points. We spend too much time scheduling this journey, checking this app or this other one, or maybe I have another one in mind. Time consuming. It is difficult to choose the right option. You don't always have all the information in mind. You don't know all the options. You don't want to try a new brand or a new service, and you're a bit lost by all the information that come up. But most important, this is not a personal travel that is provided to you, and your personal lifestyle or in-the-moment priorities are not always respected. As an answer, let me introduce you to Neways, your future daily journey assistant. With Neways, we will integrate to pre-existing navigation technologies or ever-changing cities means of transportation, but most importantly, lifestyles. And we will do so in order to meet planner and navigator in the middle. As you can see on this example, you will be able to select what truly matters to you in the moment. In this case, that you want a sustainable journey and that you're tight on schedule. And then Neways will offer you the best option for you, but it will also offer you other options that are aligned to the other features of the app. Most importantly, as it is connected to your agenda, before you go, you will know how much time you can spend on your destination before your next meeting or before moving into another destination. And on your way back, Neways will remind you to pass by your pharmacy to collect your drug that you haven't collected for the past weeks. Actually, with our solution, we will have a huge focus on carbon footprint transparency, because you will have access to this information prior to choosing your option. You will see if it is like rather sustainable or not travel. And then you will be able to track it. And maybe who knows, in the end, we can also maybe include this handprint that we talked about a bit earlier. You will also be able to have personalized travel plan. Actually, as this is an artificial intelligence solution, the more you will use Neways, the more it will get close to you and be able to provide you the best option. And also you will have efficient itinerary and you will not lose time doing them. With this solution, you will definitely improve your eco lifestyle. You will also have access to a stress-free travel planning and execution, and you will save time and money. Having Neways right now is definitely important because it is in line with the expansion of smart cities, in line with the expansion of mobility as a service, but also in line with our need to create new mobility solutions for a post-pandemic world. To achieve this Neways, we have an amazing team composed of Marie-Louise, our deep thinker. She studied at the University of Mannheim and she is our expert in social and environmental entrepreneurship. We have Alexandra, our driving force. Alexandra has a few years of professional experience in the consumer good industry and she has knowledge in analytics. We have Gerald, our creative mind. He's actually our UX UI designer, and myself, already introduced myself. I am the maximizer in this team. Actually, as you can see, we're kind of a complete team, 4 different cultural backgrounds, 4 different professional fields, but we all share one common view for the future. We want it to be healthier, sustainable, personalized, and flexible in order to make sure that we are free to move around the city according to what truly matters to us. Thank you. And don't hesitate to approach us to help us build this future.
Thank you very much, Ben and team. Great job. Amazing story, I would say, and something that we can easily relate to, especially in our current days. So it's a pleasure. So we also have a feedback giver here, and we have the managing director of RMV, or in German RMV, hopefully with us. So his name is Dr. André Cavoy. Oh, okay. All right. It seems like the PC is frozen. So maybe we do the break now then, or? Okay. So unfortunately the computer froze, so we need to do a break now. I think it was already timely planned in that regard. So we'll see you back at 10:45, and then hopefully we can still feedback on Benjamin and the team's idea. But so let's see back at 10:45. Thank you and apologies.